Hearing will come to order, and the subject here is combating what we call the virtual caliphate on the internet. Unfortunately, there's an irony in the effort to combat ISIS recruitment online, and that's that the United States, which is the world's leader in technological innovation, is hardly in the game. To protect Americans at home and abroad, this has got to change. So great has been the explosion of slick and professional ISIS videos online that, as I indicated, a lot of people are referring to this as the virtual caliphate, because within seconds, ISIS can reach a global audience using popular social media sites, disseminating hateful propaganda, to recruit new fighters and to promote its extreme ideology. And more, the virtual caliphate is calling on its followers not necessarily to go to Syria or Iraq or Libya now, but to take up arms and attack where they are at home. The smallest action you do, in their words, the smallest action you do in their homeland is better and more enduring to us than what you would if you were with us. That's the refrain. That's the message being pounded into would-be jihadists. And it's a message that's being pounded into many Americans. And we know that terrorists consumed Islamist propaganda over the internet. The attacks in Brussels, San Bernardino, Orlando, Paris, those are tied to ISIS's online efforts based on the sites visited by those performing these terrorist attacks, undertaking these terrorist attacks. Indeed, ISIS's online dominance is just as critical to that organization as the large amounts of territory that it controls in Iraq or Syria or Libya or other training bases that they've set up. Unfortunately, the pace of the cyber bombs, as we sometimes call them, the counter battery work that we do, that we're dropping on ISIS's virtual sanctuary to take out these websites, is like our campaign on its physical territory. It is slow and it is inadequate to this task. And the State Department's effort to respond to extremist content online are woefully inadequate. Its Center for Strategic Counterterrorism Communications was designed to identify and respond to extremist content online. Yet because its communications were branded with the official State Department's seal, they fell on deaf ears. It is not effective to use the State Department seal when you're doing a counterterrorism narrative. In March, the President issued an executive order to revamp this effort, renaming it the Global Engagement Center and giving it the mission to lead the government-wide effort to diminish the influence of international terrorist organizations, as he said. So the committee will soon hear from the administration how this effort differs from past efforts, but unfortunately, in public diplomacy, as we know, and this is pretty widely the view, our public diplomacy efforts on electronic media, on social media, have really been pretty much a bust, dysfunctional in the analysis of former State Department personnel who have taken a good long look at this. At a basic level, key questions remain, including the type of message that would be most effective in the face of this virulent ideology. Some suggest that the voices of disaffected former jihadists are particularly potent in deterring future jihadists. These are individuals who quickly discovered that life under ISIS is not the utopia that they were promised, or the voices of former radicals. Ed Hussein, with his book, The Jihadist. I read that lively account, and it's clear that it is having quite an impact with young people, creating a lot of second thoughts about where this ideology is leading. But if this is the message, how should it be delivered? Should the federal government produce and disseminate content? Is the federal bureaucracy equipped for such a fast-moving fight? Does any association with the State Department mean that this message is dead on arrival, as we found with the, State Department indicia or the State Department title put out there as part of the narrative? A more effective approach could have the U.S. government issuing grants to outside groups to carry out this mission. This would have the advantage of allowing the U.S. government to set policy, but put those with the technical expertise and credible voice in the driver's seat here in delivering the message. After all, such separation and distance from the U.S. government have helped our democracy promotion programs through the National Endowment for Democracy work in areas of the globe where official U.S. support just isn't feasible. We also want to make use of emerging technologies that can automatically detect and remove extremist content online. I'm aware that the private sector is working quickly to develop these types of programs. And admittedly, all this isn't easy. If it was, we'd be much better positioned going forward. But if we don't come to grips with the virtual caliphate now, this long struggle against Islamist terrorism will extend even longer with great loss of life. So I now turn to our ranking member, Mr. Brad Sherman from California, for any statement he may have.